I'm Paula Williams.
And I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
to help all you ladies and gentlemen out there in the aviation industry sell more of your products and services.
Absolutely. And that includes marketing, and part of marketing is advertising. So we did an article 1,000,000 years ago about aviation.
Wait, we've been around that long?
We have. In aviation years, yes, we have been around 1,000,000 years. But there is an article that's way old. I believe it's from 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah. About aviation advertising. And it got a lot of attention, which is great. And it's still getting a lot of attention. But it is getting embarrassing. Just because it's been so long and because so many things have changed. And actually, there's a lot of things that haven't changed. But just the quality of the video is pretty awful.
So
and
you're going to replace it with this one?
Indicative, no. I'm just going to add this one to it. We never replace anything. We always add because, there is a historical record, and that's a good thing. Okay. Besides, some people binge watch our old videos. It's the weirdest thing I've ever heard. But anyway, I think they just want to laugh at all the things that have changed. And
they can do that.
Audio and video quality from that long ago. But here we are in 2021, and if you're listening to this in 2041, then it's time for us to redo this again. But we wanted to talk about aviation advertising, which is an important part of marketing. And in fact, I think in a lot of people's minds, they are mashed together into one big chunk of stuff, right?
Yeah, probably. So
this is a script of a skit that was done on a whiteboard by Rand Fishkin at SparkToro, and we're going to act it out.
We are?
Yes.
Okay, fine.
Drama school, right? Okay.
I am not an actor.
Okay, so this is a play in 4 parts. So I'm going to be character 1, and you're going to be character 2, right?
Great.
Okay, so I'm the person selling, you're the person buying.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so brand exposure number 1. This is new product. It solves that problem you've been having.
Really? I'll keep that in mind.
Brand exposure number 2. Oh, hey, look at new product.
Uh-huh. New product again. I should check them out.
Brand exposure number 3. Or actually, this is the time of product need.
Dang it, really need to solve this problem. Let me see if that new product really can help.
Right this way, my friend.
Uh-huh. Score. New product acquired, problem solved.
And everybody goes home happy, right?
Cheering.
Right. So 4 brand exposures, and the product was purchased, everybody's happy. That never happens.
No. Or if it does, they were an order taker and you didn't really need the advertising anyway.
Exactly. This is why people have to invest in advertising. So this is how advertising actually works in the real world. Okay, so once again, this is an act in 4 parts, but pay attention to how many brand exposures there are in each of these parts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, brand exposure 1 through 16. This is new product. It solves that problem you've been having.
Uh-huh. Thinking about dinner. Time to have dinner.
Exactly.
Why doesn't anybody solve my problem?
Yeah. What? You visited our website 16 times!
Wait, what's that new product again?
It solves that that problem you've been having.
Score. New product acquired.
So that was over 29 brand exposures. And this is for a retail product. Rand Fishkin with SparkToro, he works with most companies, with a lot of different companies. So if you're thinking about business to business, it's even more than that.
Yeah, we had a slide once upon a time that you don't really get anybody's attention until after the 12th
or more
contact.
That's true. And, this is exactly the same thing, except that it's worse now.
And most salespeople won't call you back 3 times.
Exactly. And most people stop advertising, or they feel like, they already know about my product, so there's no reason to keep advertising to the same people over and over again, to keep sending the same postcards or sending the same social posts or emails.
My personal experience from the customers in was I talked to some people about a new airplane. Small one, a 172. And they said, I'll send you a postcard. And I sent it to them, and I got the card. And, well, life happens. It went away. Well,
You were thinking about dinner.
Whatever. This process happened monthly for 6 months. Now, the last time I got the card, I said, damn it. And I made a phone call. And we ended up buying an airplane.
Right. So, the larger the product, the more complicated the product, the more people involved in the buying decision, all of that adds time and exposures over time. And what's happened between 2010, when we started using the slide that John's talking about, and this slide here, is that there is more advertising in everybody's life than there was in 2010.
And it wasn't because I didn't want to buy the product. I really did, and I needed to talk to the guy, but life keeps getting in the way.
Yeah, it's not like they're sitting around waiting for you to to put an ad in front of them. So, thing number one, most people don't pay attention to ads to begin with unless it resonates in some way. So it's got to be a good ad. And thing number two is it has to be repeated. So even though it may not have worked in times 1 through 17 or 21 or 29 or 30, that doesn't mean it's not a good ad.
Right.
So statistically speaking, you can split test and see if one is 29 times and the other is 17 times and take the one that's got a shorter sales cycle for you. But
it may have just been the people's lives at the time.
A lot of this has nothing to do with you as the advertiser. It doesn't matter what I did. I was not going to get his attention until he was ready.
Right.
Not without, tripping him and, dragging him off by the hair to look at a presentation. And we can't do that in this industry. Actually, I don't know of any industry in which we can do that.
Nope.
Okay. Cool. So that's kind of where we're coming from. And, our motto, and this is something that somebody said about us and we really liked, was that we are respectfully relentless. And that is absolutely true. If there is somebody that we want as a customer, we don't give up on them until they opt out, which they usually don't do. We don't have very many opt-outs.
Nope.
But we keep sending them emails. We keep sending them packages in the mail. We keep sending them postcards. We keep doing all of those things. We keep producing podcast episodes, all of those things, because we want to be relentless. We want to be in their face in a helpful way all the time.
Because someday they're going to say, hey, I need to talk to you guys.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to be there when they say that.
Right. So what is it? Chance favors the prepared mind.
That's exactly right.
We want to be the one that they have heard about last when they need to do some marketing.
That was a line out of a movie, actually.
Chance favors the prepared mind?
Yeah.
I think that was Shakespeare.
Well, maybe, but I last saw it in the movie.
Of course, yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of things about Shakespeare that end up in movies, so, Okay, so what is the best aviation advertising method?
Market.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. Yes, it should be a marketing campaign. Random acts of advertising are not going to do you any good whatsoever. So, yes, it absolutely is true.
Yeah. And more companies than ever are doing random acts of marketing and just throwing money down the toilet.
Absolutely. And it's because it's easy to do. All of the social media channels provide a lot of opportunities to part you with your money and make you feel like you're doing some good because you're getting clicks and likes and other things that don't really translate to sales, right?
Exactly.
So you do need to do a well thought out campaign, and you do need to be respectfully relentless in the process. All of the methods that you might use in an advertising campaign have pros and cons, which is why we like to use more than one of them in every campaign. All of the advertising media that I know of are controlled by a third party, with the possible exception of maybe like this podcast, which has a number of facilitators like Libsyn and WordPress and other technology bits and things like that. But we control the content. We own the content. We control the distribution. We control everything about it using these different tools. But almost every other advertising venue is controlled by a third party, by a magazine or by a social media platform or by a trade show sponsor or an association or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about anything that is controlled by a third party
Can't count on it.
is that any of them could change the rules or disappear at any time. We learned that last year with COVID. A lot of people really depend on trade shows, and trade shows didn't happen.
Right.
So if you're depending on any one thing for your marketing or advertising, you are really...
SOL.
You're really basing your business on a house of cards, right? Or on building on sand, I guess is the biblical description of building your house on sand versus building your house on rock.
Whatever.
If you are only using any one advertising venue, no matter how well it is performing for you today, you really need to be looking at others as well.
Yes.
All right, so let's look at some of the more popular ones and see some of the pros and cons and put some combinations together that we have found to be really cool. So this is a grid that is going to make you dizzy. But one of the things that you can see here is that not any one is 100% advantageous across the board, right?
Yep.
They all have at least one disadvantage. Most have two disadvantages, or at least semi-disadvantages when you look at it. So, social media is pretty cool for lots of reasons, but not all of these reasons weigh equally, right?
Nope.
But some of the things that are a detriment to it, like social media, is a little bit less credible. So if you are doing a social media campaign, as an example, you want to pair it with maybe a direct mail campaign, which covers its weak spot with something that is very, very strong, because direct mail is super credible. It's probably the most credible of the media out there, depending on how it's done. And any of these, there's a lot of variation, and any generalization is going to be somewhat, false in the right circumstances. It's all a rule of thumb. But this is a nice way to think about it. You want to pair at least two of these methods for any type of advertising that you're doing, for any type of a marketing campaign. Does that make sense?
Preferably 3.
Preferably 3. Our favorite is to use 3.
Because that way you can cover all the squares with a green piece somewhere.
Exactly. We like to use 2 electronics and 1 non-electronic media for any campaign that we're putting together, depending on who we're trying to reach and how that works. So, if we're a flight school and we're advertising to high school graduates, then we're going to take a different tack than someone who is looking to sell a Lear 45,
Right.
Those are completely different markets, so we would use different media in different ways, but we still would pick 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's not any one surefire way to reach all high school seniors. There is not any one surefire way to reach all people who have a nostalgic yen for a Lear 45.
Right.
So, all of those things have their pros and cons. One of the lines that gets a lot of attention is the expense line. In fact, that's why we put those 2 on the bottom, because people tend to look at the bottom line, right? And expense and credibility are 2 of the biggest factors. If the rest don't mean a whole lot to you, or, you can go either way on any of those, expense and credibility, those are the 2 that you really want to look at. And unfortunately, there is none that is really, really good for credibility and has low expense.
Yeah.
I think that may be just the nature of it. People understand that if you're investing in something, that it's more credible. So that's just kind of the nature of the media as they are. If you're spending a lot of money to be at a trade show, then everybody who is at that trade show suddenly has credibility that they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yes.
Same thing if you're advertising in a magazine, especially for new companies, startups, things like that. We often recommend affiliating yourself with a brand that is older and stronger and more known than yours. So then you can say, as seen in Aviation Week, or one of the really credible brands in the market, or as seen at NBAA.
Right.
So you may want to pick very carefully your most credible market or your most credible advertising venue and then pick 2 less expensive media to support it. And then you can put a lot of energy into the less credible ones and a lot of money into the more credible one. And that balances out and gives you those advantages without so many disadvantages. You can't do all of the expensive ones. We get that. That would be silly and unnecessary.
True.
Yeah. Okay. A couple of things that have changed since the last time we put out an infographic like this. We separated paid search from SEO. The biggest difference between SEO and paid search is that SEO is a long-term strategy and paid search is a short-term strategy. And you need both, to be honest, because you need both long-term and short-term strategies. So that line, are results visible this week? SEO is going to take you potentially 6 weeks to show any kind of a difference that's really marketable or, that's really going to make a lot of sales for you. But paid search, you could put together a campaign and have it launched this afternoon.
Right.
So
expensive, though.
It is expensive, and we do recommend it for things like events and also for those keywords that you have a lot of competition for. In fact, there are some older podcasts that you'll listen to from us where we say never, 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 never use paid search unless it is for an event or something that is a time-delimited factor. That's not true anymore. There's so much competition in search and so many people doing SEO that if all of your competitors are doing paid search and you are not, you're going to be losing out on a lot of business because that's how people look for people,
And if you're sharp in SEO and you find a competitor that's sharp in SEO, then you'll be fighting them for the rest of the time you're in business.
Right, and we offer SEO services, and so do all of the other aviation marketing companies. So it's a nice race that really makes us all better. But it does drive me crazy because we're always being countered. It's a chess game for us. And that's true in a lot of the really competitive fields like flight schools and FBOs in certain areas and other things like that. There is a bidding war for paid search. So the way that you counteract that is you have a very high quality website, and then you will actually end up paying less for those keywords than your competitors.
And there's some other strategies you can do as well, but that's a start.
Exactly. You want to be paying less than your neighbors, but getting a better result. And you do definitely want to be included in paid search if 3 out of 4 of your neighbors are there,
of course,
or competitors are already there. So those are some big things that have changed. Once again, no method is perfect. People are always asking us for the magic bullet or the easy button or whatever. I just want to do one thing and sell my product. If we could do that, we would be making a whole lot more money than we are now.
Exactly.
Yeah. Any combination of these advertising platforms is more effective than the sum of its parts. So if you do a campaign that is email plus a postcard, or trade show followed up by direct mail, any of these things in combination is 1,000 times more effective. Maybe not 1,000 times, I'm exaggerating. It is quite a bit more effective than the sum of its parts. Because people need to hear from you multiple times, just like we talked about in that little skit from Rand Fishkin, It's crazy. And we like to use 3+ for any campaign because that does cover the pluses, minuses, and without spending any more money than we absolutely have to, we can do a really, really effective campaign. Cool?
Yep.
All right. So, thank you for joining us.